When we got to Vietnam, our first impression of the country was total chaos. It was a drastic contrast to Japan, the country in which we spent the prior week waiting for our Vietnamese visas. In Japan, no matter how many cars or people were on the road, we would hear only the friction of wheels or heels on the pavement. In Vietnam, scooters and buses honked at will, and people would have hearty conversations at the top of their lungs. Don't forget the national pastime, karaoke. Sales of high-power speakers must be a major component of household spending. Traffic seems to be moving in every direction, no matter which side of the road you are on. Standing in the middle of an intersection, it seems impossible that the converging vehicles could not collide. Yet somehow, the tangle would miraculously sort itself out. All our senses were engaged at all times, including smell. The smell of barbecue, motor oil, fish sauce, cigarettes, and the occasional durian, all mixed with the salty sea breeze, vying for our attention. We are here to experience, so what did we do? Of course, we rented scooters. The first 3 days of us driving were, as my dad would put it, pants soiling. I'm paraphrasing here. Take the Vietnam left turn, for instance. The locals would go on the inside of oncoming traffic so they can see when an opening presents itself. Then they would cross the street to merge with the other side, with little care of the oncoming traffic. That's why, at just about any intersection, be prepared for head-on traffic. Then there are the roundabouts. Vehicles as small as bicycles and as large as semi-trucks would hem in on us from all sides like a shrinking box. But in this game of chicken, the key to coming out alive is to keep a steady speed, as every other driver is a master calculator of velocity and distance. So, if you keep steady, they will all miss you by an inch. And don't forget the pedestrians, as jaywalking isn't against the law, but rather the rule of the street. Potholes are best to be taken straight on, with prayers that your suspension wouldn't bottom out, because sudden swerving is just too risky. After 3 days of this madness, though, the Vietnamese way began to all make sense. The chaos has its own way of sorting itself out. In the 2 months here, we only saw one accident. Everyone paid attention to the road because they have no choice. Even the constant honking, it was just the communications between drivers to stay alert. Slowly, we began to admire the efficiency of transportation here. We rarely encountered traffic jams, though population density here is far greater than Southern California. Half of the scooters carried more than one passenger, and fuel efficiency is far better than cars. With few traffic lights and mostly roundabouts, we rarely had to sit idle, waiting for the lights. As soon as we got more comfortable on the scooter, we started exploring Da Nang more off the beaten paths, and realized that scooter is practically the only way to get close and personal. Many parts of the city were still in the old layout with narrow streets and single-lane roads that no cars can access. When we got out of the city proper, there were many narrow suspension bridges, muddy paths, and single-lane mountain roads that we would never have gotten on if we weren't on scooters. Finding food while riding was also really easy. Just follow your nose. We would stop when we smelled deliciousness and point to other customers' lunches. That was how we ordered. The 2 months we spent exploring Da Nang and the countryside around it was exhilarating, sometimes terrifying, but always intimate. There were times, either on narrow suspension bridges or down steep muddy roads, when my heart was in my throat. And honestly, I didn't even know if we would make it. But holding tight onto my mom's back, I could feel her warmth. And after all said and done, I treasure the experience we shared together. Maybe the Vietnamese have it right. We see families of 3 to 5 driving on one tiny scooter. But they held on to each other tight. We saw couples and best friends smiling and talking in each other's ears as they rode by, holding each other tight. On long-distance rides, I do miss the comfort of a car, but I wouldn't trade a scooter for anything when getting around town in Da Nang. Before Vietnam, I never considered vehicles fun. It was just means to get from point A to point B. But now, I have a new perspective.